Hey. I've got to make this shorter, man. I can't upload a 30-minute video. Can't. I am at Pahwody on Twitter. I write for DLF. I do fantasy football stuff. Just in case you knew, how do you find this, man? Appreciate it. I want to make a video about tips on how to make a database. Jetpack Galileo, a great follow on Twitter, great fantasy guy, true nerd owner. Recently posted about, or I read it at least, that's how to start. Make a database, start experimenting. Most guys who do this, by the way, me, at FS Spaceman on Twitter, at Jetpack Galileo on Twitter, will share our stuff, man. Check out our pinned tweets. It's normally a database. But you're going to want to make your own. If you want to start experimenting, let me put it this way. If there is a nerd on Twitter really annoying you, and you really just want to put the stuff to him, get him to shut up using the thing that he loves the most, a spreadsheet or a stat, or prove that he's exaggerating, whatever, you're going to need data to do it. Or you just make them cry, because we're criers, let's face it. And by saying mean things, we're really sensitive. But if you want to get into stats for any reason, you're going to have to make a database at some point. Now, how to, like the technicalities of how do I write a formula in Excel or do index match, I created separate videos for those. They're in a separate playlist, my how-to series. And there are others, better ones, frankly, on YouTube and on the internet. But I made those so I could always point to them and say they're 5 minutes long, they're really quick and easy, and I use fantasy football stats, so I think it's more relatable than listen to a guy talking about population percentages when he's doing his how-to, if you're interested in fantasy football. And you can learn how to do the basics of it. But if you can also do those while building a database. That's how I learned them. I needed to do something to build a database, so I went and found out how, and I learned while doing. I recommend that way of learning. But I've cut it down to 2 really important things you should know that you have to do at the start to save you lifetimes, like lifetimes of hours later. So you don't have to do some very basic. You don't even have to worry about the problems that it causes to not do them. That's how good they are. You'll never know the pain that I have suffered, and that's a good thing, I think. So, quick, under 10 minutes. 2 things, tips and tricks, or a tip and a trick. Not sure which is which. You decide. But some quick words on where to get data from. The point of making a database is to merge information from different sources. Like you can go to airyards.com, and you should go to the data tab, airyards data, and you can just hit a download button, and it gives you technically a database 1 year at a time, and then you copy and paste it so that all the years are in order, and create a year column before you copy and paste them into the same sheet. This is all 2019, this is all 2018. And then you have a season-by-season database of what players have done. It's a really good database. But maybe you want to add in another stat, like passing attempts, team passing attempts, so that you can calculate PPR points or yards per team passing attempt. That's the one. That's a new stat that's really, really good, and you should want it in a database so that you can see how good it is or see what players have done with it. It's better than yards per route run, by the way. The only difference is yards per route run only exists behind paywalls, which is, I think, why people keep posting it. Not because they get money from those paywalls, but because it's chic and new and sexy, and it sounds like it should make more sense and have more value, but actually has less value and makes less sense than yards per team pass attempt, which is all freely available and easy to calculate, but everyone can have that, and it's not cool. You should want yards per team pass attempt, but you're going to have to merge passing attempts, if nothing else, with the AYards database. So here's the problem with databasing, or making that stat. DJ More or D.J.More. Sounds real simple, right? But once you have a history, because you want more than just last season, I want to compare DJ Moore to Calvin Ridley, or DJ Moore to Calvin Johnson, who didn't even play last season. So, like, I'm going to want to see his stats too. So you go and you get AR's data all the way to 2009. Free. Thank you, Josh Hertzmeyer. Appreciate it. But now I need team passing attempts, which isn't in there. You can there's a form you can count targets by team, but he also doesn't have team in there. Or actually, AR's database might. So you can do a sum if s formula to count targets by team by year. And again, my how-to videos can teach you how to do that. And so then you have an approximation of passing attempts, but it's only an approximation. And the minute you go to earn that nerd on Twitter, he's going to be like, that's not how many times they passed for. And they've won again. So you're going to need an accurate count of passing attempts, because not all players are tracked in the AR's database. Not all players are tracked in any database, makes it really difficult. But you can find for free passing attempts for the year. And this is just one stat that you're trying to add. You'll want to add more, obviously, but I'm concentrating on this one to make it 10 minutes long, not an hour long, like the last one I tried to make. So, got AR's data. You found team passing attempts by year, where from Sports Football Reference will give it to you. Copy and paste it into another sheet. You have them in 2 different sheets. Yay! But I want to merge them, and that's where we get to making a database. Stats from different sources in the same place. Well, that's what it is for us grinders. I'm sure like a real big nerds out there, like that's not the technical word of database, or they're like, I have a PFF sub, and so I just downloaded it all at once. It's pretty, whatever, man. Go away. Just the grinders here trying to catch up and keep up with you, so leave us alone. Now, how do you do that? Well, before you start doing it, there are some things. Again, there are 2 things you should really do. All right, let's go look. All right, so here I've actually got a whole bunch of different things added. This is a sample of my actual database. But the first thing you need to do is decide initially, and there are going to be more if you keep going with this, and people keep asking things on Twitter until you're in the basement at 4 a.m. on your birthday that no one remembered, trying to create a table that someone asked you. Enough about my problems. They're going to be more, but basic ones that you think are always going to be there, and you can always get the data in the same order from the same place. AODS.com, great, free. You're always going to use it. You need AODS data. Great. I use RotoViz, but it's a paywall thing, unless you're like downloading my databases, which you can do from, like I said, my pin tweet, FS Spaceman's pin tweet. A bunch of us are doing it, but like we're not official, and you want to be more careful. So Pro Football Reference, or PFR, is another great one. Now some of their apps are about to go behind a paywall, but for now we'll pretend the world isn't terrible. Or FFtoday.com. You can just get a whole bunch of stats for free there too. Or NFL.com or ESPN.com, wherever you want to copy and paste or download a table from that's free that you have access to. Decide, where you're going to continually track stats from, or I have air yards and I want team passing attempts, so I need Pro Football Reference data, whatever. All right. Next thing you're going to need is a name database. You're going to have to create a database to make a database. Spooky, I know. And don't think too hard about it because it's really painful. But this will save you like years off of your lifespan. I'm pretty sure I've lost years fixing several things in databases, but hours and hours of work later when you want to add new stats from 2 different states. And all I'm saying is you line up Jake Plummer's name here with the way it is spelt in that other database. That might sound simple until you think, oh, well, I want to do a 10-year history. Of course, you're talking about 10,000 lines. That's what's in this one. 10,000 lines. And if you think it's easy to go line by line and make sure all the spelling's correct from one name to another, it's not. It's a trial by damn fire. And it's all because of one site will use DJ Moore, one site will use D.J Moore. Okay, well, I can just delete the full stops. True, that'll get you a long way. In your PFR database, delete the dots. Great. But what about juniors? What about seniors? What about one guy called Bobo Wilson in one database and Charlie Wilson in another? Like, who the hell is this guy and why does he have 2 names? Don't know, but he does. Or Mike Williams. There's like 7 Mike Williamses, and they're all drafted at a different time, and they have different stats. And if you try to combine databases just using the name Mike Williams, it's going to be wrong. And that nerd, again, is going to own you on Twitter, which we don't want. So, You can do some of it with index match and VLOOKUP, but sometimes you're going to have to dig in. Like Steve Smith, Mike Williams, those are two names that come up a lot. You're going to have to make sure of the spelling and the way that each source you're using identifies which is different. Sometimes you use senior, sometimes you use junior. Sometimes they don't, because they have an ID column hidden that won't let you download it. So you have to create an ID column of your own, which is what's in the second column here. Either way, you're going to have to line up the names from the sources that you want to use and maybe create an ID column. That's job one. Not even joking. Do that. Live a longer, happier life. Please do this for me. That's where you start. Then you start adding data from those two sources to it, because you can easily index match or VLOOKUP from those two different data sources when you copy and paste them off their websites, because you know the name that you're looking for from each website. Yay! What's the second thing? Pete, you're already over 10 minutes. Pete, you suck at this, Pete. Thank you, Pete. Did not plan that joke. Second thing is, don't use the data that you just spent. I spent a year doing my first name database because I didn't know half the stuff that you can learn in those how-to videos. I had to learn it as going, and it's painful. Don't experiment in that data set. This data that we just lined up nice and neatly, so we've got RotoViz data and Pro Football Reference data and Air Yards data all lined up neatly in each season for each player. Don't add columns. Don't do calculations here. Make a separate tab. Do it there. You can just copy and paste, but what I really recommend is copying that name database, creating a helper column, which again I can explain in those how-to videos, but essentially it's, in this case, my ID plus the season number, so that I can look up season 1, season 2, season 3, or season 2017, however I want. And then search through your data set for the data that you want and line it up the way you want it here. Don't reorganize what the website gave you. Just leave it in the same format, because that way, and here's the trick, you can just go get that information again and add it. Just go get it, and you put it back in your spreadsheet, and it's all in the right column, and it's easy. If you start moving shit around, because really, team pass attempts should be right next to the player's reception, that would be great. Or have whatever order that you want. This is the things that I have done that have hurt me. I'm mocking myself right now, to be very clear, not you. And when you go to get that data again, it's like, what column was this that I added? I forgot what this calculation was, and it separates out these two other columns that I can't remember what they were, and I can't just neatly add the data from a new year of stats or whatever to my data set, because it's all in a different order than what it was from the websites originally. Just don't do it. Just keep it in the same order, create a separate tab, and you play around over here. That's it. So instead of... And also, it means you don't have to call up all the data all the time. So you use an index match formula to call up the team passing attempts from Pro Football Reference over here. And then you use an index match formula to call up the points per game that I got from ayards.com or RotoViz or whatever. And then I do the sum. I do passing attempts, or PPR points divided by passing attempts. So here I've got points per team pass attempt. And a nice neat calculation. And I didn't change anything. So all of this is safe and secure, and I'm not going to forget where anything is, and I can copy and re-download data from those two sources over and over again, and it's all going to be in the same order, because that's the way the website works. And it's all going to be in the right order over here, because I've got active formulas looking up the information in the right columns, because none of these columns are moving. This is the way my market share database functions, by the way. It's the one that's in my pinned tweet, going back to 2003, all prospects that have scored a stat in the NFL, all the college data we can find on them, it's in there. And this is the way it works. I have all the data in one tab, I call it up into a separate tab, and then when I want to post it on Google Sheets for you all to see, I copy it again into a separate sheet and upload that, so that it's all numbers, because I turn those formulas by copying and pasting as value instead of copying and pasting straight. You turn them all into numbers or the letters that you see in the boxes, rather than like a formula like this, which means you can move it around a lot safer and nothing changes. So that's the way my market share database works. So that every time I go to update it, I just have to add the new information, and then this sheet looks it up for me, and then I copy and paste that into the one that I upload for you all. And I don't have to reinvent the database every time a new player turns up, or every time a new class turns up. I just add information, and it all does it automatically, and then I can upload it for you guys. Now, it still takes a little manual work, so I have to create new IDs and look up the names from those sources, or where I'm getting data from those websites, because they're new names for every draft class. But it takes me an hour or 5, not a year, to recreate the whole database and line everyone up nice and neatly. And now I was reminded of this recently because I was basing everything off of FSTatistics Statistics database because it was all easily downloadable, and then FS Statistics disappeared. So I had to go get RotoViz data, and they have different data in a different order, and I had to recreate everything with different names. So it still can happen to you, but you can limit the number of times it happens to you on a yearly basis, or even a decade-long basis, by just having it, by experimenting it in a separate tab from where your data is. And also, save it on a hard drive, save it in a cloud, and save it on your computer. 3 times, especially with that name database. Don't lose it. I lost it once. Nearly cried. Well, I'm a nerd, so I cried. I literally cried. I didn't literally cry. Maybe I did. You don't know. You don't know me. And those are my 2 tips, and one's a tip and one's a trick, I guess. 1, the first thing you need to do is line up the names from the different sources of data that you want to use in what I'm calling a name database in a very nerdy way. And 2, don't experiment or calculate or insert models or whatever you want to do with these things in that data set. Do it in a separate sheet so that you don't always have to reformat all that work that you did the first time. That will save you at least 20 years worth of work. I'm guessing. I don't know. It took a lot. I missed a few birthdays. All right. It's definitely not 10 minutes long, but it's under 20. That's better. If you enjoyed it, let me know. If you didn't, also let me know, I guess. Tell me what you want to hear. If you want to make a video on something else less nerdy, please. Want to hear what I think about Juju using the database instead of how to get information about it? Whatever. Let me know. Comments below. Hit me up on Twitter at Pahwody. Hope it was useful, interesting, or at least fun to watch a nerd freak out over his database a little bit. Thanks very much. I'll talk to you again next time. Bye.
Do you have the time?